Hello everybody, free practice 2 underway in just a few minutes time here at Oschersleben. It is the opening weekend of DTM 2025. We've had one 55-minute free practice session already. That was interrupted by a red flag with some oil on the track for around about half an hour in the middle of the session. So a slightly shorter break between sessions for the drivers and teams to analyse the data and work out where they can improve, and also some slightly improved weather between the two sessions as well. It was pretty chilly this morning, still not great, but it was only around about 11 degrees air temperature and 12 degrees track temperature when the cars were out a few hours ago for that first session. It's now had a little bit of sunshine breaking through. It is set to be a much better weekend with temperatures perhaps up to about 18 or 19 degrees over Saturday and Sunday, but we've had the temperatures up now to nearly 17 degrees, and the track temperature with the sunshine now breaking through the clouds is also up to just under 18 degrees. So actually warmer temperatures now than we had for this comparable session in free practice 2 12 months ago. So it'll be interesting to see how that affects the times for the teams in cars which struggle to get their tyres up to temperature in cold conditions, thinking BMW in particular, and Mercedes to a point as well. Although the Mercedes went pretty well in that first free practice session, they will be happy to see the sunshine coming through. So this might be a busy session because these are more like the weather conditions and the track temperatures that we're going to expect to see over the course of the 2 race days on Saturday and Sunday. So free practice 1 a few hours ago was topped in terms of the times by Thomas Preining, the 2023 champion in the Manthey EMA Porsche. The Austrian driver set a time of 1:22.596 seconds. Going out late on to set some quick lap times was Jordan Pepper in his first full season now, having made his debut at the Sachsenring last year. And the South African driver for the TGI Lamborghini squad, the Grasser Racing team run Hurricane, he was second quickest, 44 thousandths of a second. All that was to choose between the fastest 2 drivers. Anjan Nguyen was quick again, as he was in the season test here a few weeks ago, the media launch day, and official season test was here at Oschersleben at the start of April, and it was Thomas Preining and Anjan Nguyen who were the fastest 2 that day, and Anjan Nguyen 3rd quickest in that session. As I said, with his teammate, just a little bit quicker, fastest overall. 4th quickest was Jules Gounon, who is another driver having his first full campaign in the DTM, a very experienced French driver who has raced GT World Challenge. He's currently racing World Endurance Championship, was on the podium last week at Imola in the Alpine Hypercar. And Jules Gounon, who made his debut at the final round of the season at Hockenheim, standing in for Neil Lucas Stoltz in October. He was 4th quickest in that first session in the Mercedes, running for the Winwood Racing squad. Looking at Lucas Auer, who for the last 4 years has been driving for the Winwood Racing squad, but although of course he's still very much involved in this championship and as a Mercedes driver, he's now with the Landgraf Motorsport team for this season, so he's switched across. Jules Gounon is in the Winwood Mamba distinctive liveried car. Mirko Bortolotti and Maro Engel were the other drivers in the top 6. René Rast, we saw him leading the field out onto the track initially at the start of the session and after the red flag period. But René has said, as we talked about in the first free practice session, this could be a tough weekend. It's not one that really necessarily suits the BMW. It's a wide car, a long wheelbase car, and these are some narrow, twisty sections to this Oschersleben circuit. And René Rast, only 19th quickest earlier on. His teammate Marco Wittmann in the other BMW was back in 21st place. So there is Mirko Bortolotti, who had a fairly quiet first free practice session. Now, of course, he's switched across to the Abt Motorsport team. He's looking to get them their first driver's title since 2009, and he's looking to retain the championship, which he took away from this man last year. Thomas Preining won in 23, and in 2024, it was Mirko Bortolotti, of course, who in a very close battle with Kelvin van der Linde and Maro Engel won the championship at Hockenheim. And of course, those 2 drivers you would expect are going to be 2 of the favourites this year, with Tommy Preining in particular having a very good first free practice session. He also happens to hold the qualifying lap record around this track as well. And having spoken to him yesterday, asked him whether he liked the circuit or not, and he said, "Do you know what? You ask most drivers, they don't really get along with Oschersleben. It's not necessarily one of their favourite circuits, but I'll give you the opposite answer. I absolutely love it around here." So he said, "I'm not sure what it is. It just clicks. It just works for me." And so he, a driver who nearly won here 2 years ago, got on the podium, but had a penalty with pit stop infringement, could be going into this in a real confident frame of mind. Free practice 2 then underway. My name's Chris Hartley. I'm here at a slightly warmer Oschersleben, and alongside me here in Germany, it's good afternoon to Brian Oliver.
Good afternoon, Chris. Good afternoon, everybody around the world tuning in for what is shaping up to be an epic season of DTM. There's lots of new things for this year, new drivers, new teams. We've got new manufacturers on the grid. Really looking very exciting, and the good news for all of us is, as already mentioned, the sun is starting to poke through. It was Baltic this morning. I sat out on the terraces just now, and the sun was coming through, the temperature starting to rise. So really important session this. There are now just 44 minutes remaining between now and what will effectively be the first qualifying session of the year. So it's less than 44 minutes for teams to gather all the data that they need to do all the scrubbing of tyres that needs to be done. A lot of rookies in the field this year as well. So they're trying to get to grips with this old school circuit. It's a circuit tough to overtake, a circuit that bites if you get it wrong. Not a lot of runoff areas. If you do get it wrong, you're going to be on the grass and potentially into the barrier. So the qualifying sessions tomorrow and Sunday morning are going to be very important. Grid position will be important, and a lot of the hard work setting up for that is about to happen now.
Yeah, absolutely right. And as you say, 5 rookies in this year's championship, but technically I suppose you could say 7, because you've got Jules Gounon and Jordan Pepper, as I mentioned, who haven't only had one weekend at DTM.
A rookie.
I know, exactly. DTM rookie.
Yes.
Massively experienced, yes,
indeed.
In GT cars, in any kind of cars, but in terms of DTM, a rookie full season, if you like, if you want to call them that.
And 8, because we've got Ben Durr joining the rookies against you.
That's right,
well.
yeah.
Yes.
Even though it's his second season, he's been classed as a rookie. There is a new rookie championship. Yeah, Ben went pretty well, didn't he, in the McLaren? He was just outside the top 10 in the first session. He's got, there he is, Ben Durr. He's got a rather experienced teammate. Timo Glock has come back to the DTM for the first time. Well, since a guest appearance in 2022, but it's going to be Timo's first full season in DTM since 2021. He's a former winner here at Oschersleben. And yeah, speaking to Ben Durr, he was pretty pleased with the way it went. He said, actually, the really cold temperatures don't suit our car. The McLaren has a pretty small window in which to get the tyres working. So warmer weather should be even better news for Ben. He said, but we've learned a lot from last year. We certainly really have worked on our pit stops. That's something we've worked on, because that was a struggle for them. Certainly the first half of the season. They changed some crew and worked things around and got better at it as the year went on. He said, but you know, a lot of new personnel here, and we're hoping to really step up. There's a lot to learn still, there's a lot to improve, but yeah, it's good to see Ben Durr having a good start to the season. And also new to the championship this year, the pair of Aston Martins run by the Come To You Racing Squad. The Aston Martin Vantages, driven in the case of number 7 by Gilles Magnus and number 8 Nicolas Bart. And Come To You Racing, who actually have only worked with Aston Martin since last year. The background of the team, predominantly in touring car racing, prior to moving up to GTs. But they did have a pretty good maiden year last year when they won the Spa 24-hour race with an Aston Martin, the Come To You Racing team. And a certain Nicky Tim, of course, he's on our grid as a DTM race winner. And he's still a factory driver for Aston Martin. Was one of the drivers that got that great success. There then is Jordan Pepper going through in the TGI Grasser Racing Team Lamborghini, which was the second quickest car in that session this morning. The comparable time, so 1:22.5 was our quickest time by Thomas Preining in free practice 1. Last year in free practice 1, in slightly warmer conditions, by a couple of degrees, it was a 1:21.9, so it's a bit slower than last year's free practice 1 time. But last year, free practice 2 got slower, even though the track got a bit warmer and the air temperature got a bit warmer at 14 degrees. So Arjun Maini was quickest in free practice 2 here last year with a 1:22.5. The qualifying lap record held by Thomas Preining is a 1:21.3. We won't get anywhere near that, I don't think, today, but we'll see how we go tomorrow. It should be pretty good for the car, shouldn't it, tomorrow? Because it's not going to be so hot that the engines are going to struggle to breathe. They'll be able to take more from the air, and the tyres aren't going to overheat, but it's not going to be so cold that they struggle with grip either. So should see some quick lap times. We'll see how the new tyres go, Brian. Lots of the feedback is that they're pretty similar to last year's tyre, but it is a new compound from Pirelli this year. And the key thing, Brian, is that they're much more environmentally friendly, this year's tyres.
Yeah, they're certified by the Forest Stewardship Council as plantations that benefit the people who live and work in the areas where these are manufactured. And the tyres, rumour has it, they actually wear a bit better. There's less wear on the tyres. But they're certainly, the key part is that they're made with sustainable components, as is also the case with the new fuel for 2025, DTM Pro Climate, a new synthetic fuel that has significantly reduced CO2 emissions, which is very exciting, and we see that percentage going up. You're at about 70%.
Yeah, 70 to 75% less emissions from this synthetic fuel that we've got, which is great news.
I mean, that is fantastic news, and you get the feeling we're not a million miles away from that magic 100%, and we'd like to see that before too long. The one thing about the fuel is that there is a higher consumption rate with these cars, and it does mean that because of that, for 2025, the races are very slightly shortened. So we're 5 minutes shorter than we were last year, 55 minutes plus the obligatory 1 lap. So new duration for this year and a new format for the races as well. Well, certainly for race 2, with the mandatory pit stop and now being increased to 2 mandatory pit stops in the second race. So Saturday, race 1 of the weekend remaining as you were, but race 2 on a Sunday will now feature 2 mandatory stops, one between the 10th and the 25th minute. That's when the first window will open, and the second pit window will open for just 6 minutes at the end of the race, between the 39th and the 45th minute. And that is really going to throw a cat amongst the pigeons. That should really scramble things up. Just when we think we're in for a nice, peaceful Sunday afternoon and everything's calm and collected, they're going to open a pit window for 6 minutes at the end of the race.
Yeah, pull the pin from a grenade, throw it into the race, see what happens. Could be fun. Right, so the last 30 seconds, and this really sums up DTM. We've had 3 different drivers go quickest. Mirko Bortolotti, first of all. He's now 4th, because Maro Engel has just gone quicker than him. And then before that, Ben Green went to the top of the time very briefly, about 10 seconds, I think it was, before Jordan Pepper came through and went even quicker. So Pepper looking good. He was 3rd quickest in the pre-season test here a few weeks ago. And he and his teammates was 4th quickest as well. Luca Engstler pushing out wide there is Ben Green, and Ben Green, one of the rookies. Great to see him here. That's last year racing in the GT World Challenge. He's got GT experience, had a win actually at Hockenheim, a couple of podium finishes as well on his way. He's raced in the ADAC GT Masters Championship for a couple of seasons as well. He was the junior champion in 2022. Had 3 podiums in 2023, driving a Schubert BMW with Eduardo Cosseteng. Prior to that, in the UK, before he came and started racing over here, he was racing in Ginettas, in the Ginetta Super Cup, in which he was a multiple race winner and championship front runner. So it's been great to see Ben's development, and he's going well here. 2nd quickest overall. Max Powell has just put in his best lap of the session so far. And has looked pretty good in his Lamborghini. The number 71 Powell Motorsport Lamborghini has gone 6th quickest. So Italian brands going well at the moment. You've got a Lamborghini fastest, a Ferrari 2nd, a Lamborghini Mirko Bortolotti 4th, a Ferrari 5th, Jack Aitken.
Because I'm stuck behind Rust.
I can't go any quicker, I'm stuck behind René Rast. It's not a sentence you hear very often, is it, from anybody? René Rast is holding me up. That was You're Good on team radio. But you can see that's probably slightly delayed transition, because he's backed away from René now, and René's pulled away from him, and there's a much bigger gap between them. René goes over the start-finish line, then Julian Mercedes through next. But look at this, Brian, fastest first sector. It goes purple on the screen. That's the absolute best first sector time then for Jordan Pepper.
Jordan Pepper has been looking very keen from the moment he stepped onto the track today. He was very quick, P2 in the first practice session this morning. It looks like he's got caught up behind the Aston Martin, which may have slowed his progress somewhat in Sector 2, but a purple in Sector 1, which has now been eclipsed by Luca Engstler. So Engstler now the quickest of anybody in Sector 1. So he's picked up the pace as well. It's starting to look like a Lamborghini might be the car to have here this afternoon.
It's looking good, isn't it? but past form won't give us any help whatsoever, because in the last 2 years when DTM has been here in the GT3 era, we've had 4 different pole sitters and 4 different race winners. So trying to say, well, this car or this team or this driver is definitely on for a win here is almost impossible around this circuit, because it's a bit of a unique track, this, isn't it, compared to the rest of them on the calendar?
Yeah, it really is, and as I've already mentioned, there's no runoff areas. That's a fairly unique thing, and it's very old school. Very few overtaking opportunities, but I guess the best is at the end of the straight that you were just looking at, and you're looking at again here in towards turn 1, that heavy braking point. There was a lot of discussion over the winter, and it was proposed for quite a long time that turn 1 was going to revert back to that sharp 90-degree corner that we saw many years ago, and then that corner was very much softened, and the thoughts were that they wanted to change the format of the track back to the sharp 90-degree left-hander to create more overtaking opportunities and to slow the cars through the hotel turn after a couple of fairly high-speed accidents last year. The ADAC were not able to get FIA approval from that, is my understanding, so it may well happen, though, in the future. We just ran out of time for it this year. But overtaking opportunities, not loads of them around the circuit. Maybe here as we head in towards turn 11 a little bit. But the main one is into turn 1. It does mean that qualifying in the mornings is very important. Grid positions are very, very important. And as Luca Engstler goes purple in Sector 1, the best of anybody, and then a personal best in Sector 2, he will be thinking back to last year when we were here and he got that sneaky win. It exceeded his expectations and set him on a path to great success during the year last year. The first of 2 wins, and his first was here this time last year. The other, of course, going to Jack Aitken.
Yeah, and both races were affected by, there was a change in the rules last year whereby you, if you did a pit stop during a full course yellow or a safety car, it didn't count as your mandatory stop. You had to come in again. And in both races, drivers managed to get in like literally just before our full course yellow came out. It was good thinking from the teams because they saw what was about to happen and decided to change their strategies. Luca Engstler benefited from that, but he was also quick, and he did also prove that it wasn't a one-off when he got on the podium at the Norris Ring a couple of months later. So he's a very quick driver, and he's adapted really quickly to GT3 cars, having had a background in much less powerful front-wheel drive touring cars. He was a very good TCR racer, Luca Engstler, a German champion, an Asian champion, a Malaysian champion as well. But third season in the DTM he's about to embark upon. First year was with an Audi in a private run team, really, with his own run team, the Engstler run team, and now with Grasser Racing, and looking good. And he's third quickest at the moment. His teammate Jordan Pepper is second quickest, and he improved his lap time last time around with an absolute best final sector. But they are both behind Mirko Bortolotti, the reigning champion. So it's a Lamborghini 1, 2, 3 at the moment, and Borto has just gone absolute best in Sector 1 as well, which is the longest sector, and through Sector 2 quickest as well. So it's not back straight, it goes through the right, then the left at turns 11 and 12. You're right on board with the Italian now, based in Vienna in Austria, wrestling the wheel as he makes his way through these right-handers, and then turning through that final corner at 95 kilometres an hour, down to second gear, bang it up through the gears, third, fourth, fifth, he'll get up to, over the line he'll go, and that's even quicker by 0.2 of a second now. He's the quickest driver out there. So Mirko Bortolotti had a quiet start to the first session, but was quick enough when he went out towards the end of free practice 1. Top of the time, straight out, all guns blazing, 1:23.371. He's, well, almost 0.3 quicker than Jordan Pepper, who is second quickest at the moment. But watch for Luca Engstler. He's done an absolute best first sector once again. So the Lamborghini's utterly dominating free practice 2 at the moment.
And that'll be music to the ears of Mirko Bortolotti. Let's have a listen to team radio from René Rast.
With Marco losing a tenth in Sector 1, gaining it back in Sector 3.
René Rast was the last driver in the DTM to win back-to-back titles. Nobody's done it since we've gone into the GT3 era, and Mirko Bortolotti certainly fancies that, and looking dialed in, looking chilled, looking ready to do that. And with his new team, with Abt behind him as well, he's certainly an absolute firm favourite coming into this season to do just that.
Luca Exler is about to go over the lines. Another good lap, a 1:23.571. It's his personal best. He stays third, but gets to within 2 tenths now of his teammate Mirko Bortolotti. So Godfrey Grasser's going to be well pleased with this, with both his drivers up there third and fourth, but they've all been pipped now by Ayhan Nguyen, who's also looked very rapid here so far this weekend. And Brian and I were discussing last night, potential race winners. Could we get 10 different race winners again in 2025 like we did in 2024? And Ayhan Nguyen was a name that came up. We said, look, it's about time he won a race. He's more than good enough. He hasn't had much good luck in this championship in the last 2 years, but he's already been on the podium a couple of times, and he proved that he's quick enough to do it. So let's see how he goes. But for now, Luca Sauer, former runner-up of the championship, he's on a mission. Fastest in sector 1 and 2, over the line, fastest overall. Great lap, 1:22.807 seconds for the Austrian, who has looked... Well, he always looks pretty relaxed, but he's looked super relaxed here so far this weekend. And the Mercedes, 4 tenths up now on the Porsche of Nguyen.
That's a proper flag in the ground by Luca Sauer, isn't it? At 1:22.8, that's very impressive indeed. Talking as statistics, long-time friend of DTN, Toby Ebner, has posted on his social media. He's done a bit of maths about the most successful drivers so far in the GT3 era. According to the point system that's been valid since 2023, he's done a little calculation over the GT3 area. Kelvin van der Linde has scored the most points of anybody combined over that period of time with 682. But Mirko Bortolotti is the second highest point scorer in the GT3 era. Third highest point scorer is Luca Sauer with 587. I found that very fascinating. And it just shows that it's the consistency as well. But that's kind of combined points over the last 5 years of the GT3 era. So really appreciate the maths being done there, and quite fascinating reading. But Luca Sauer proving that he is Mr. Consistency and jumping to the top of the timing screens.
Yeah, when you look at Mirko Bortolotti as well, because he won the championship last year. He won the championship, but he only had 1 race win out of 16 races. If you're a fan of British racing, you'll remember, or you probably know, the much talked about stat that Colin Turkington won a 30-race championship, the British Touring Car Championship in 2018, with 1 race win. So it's not, who cares how many wins you got, it's just who was the champion. And other people won more races than Mirko last year, but he was the one that's got the trophy on his mantle, as Ayhan Nguyen goes even quicker, doesn't he, on that last lap, 1:22.719 to go back to the top of the times, ahead of Luca Sauer. Mirko Bortolotti is third quickest in the pits now, and Maurice Schuring is fourth quickest, 1:23.509. And Brian, you and I caught up with Maurice at lunchtime. There's a man who looks super relaxed on his debut weekend in the DTM. I know he's pretty experienced, still a young driver, but he's got a reasonable amount of experience already in his young years in GT racing and in Porsche Carrera Cup racing. But he just looked very happy to be here and looking like he was going to enjoy the challenge rather than he was daunted by it.
Yeah, I mean, is winning Le Mans 24 enough for a bit of experience in it?
GT winner last year.
Yeah, but the interesting point from him was he said, it feels like I'm coming home. And it's interesting because he has done many laps here, albeit in Porsche 6 Carrera Cup Germany, cars with no ABS, can I point out. But he's stepped into the GT3 and has really taken to it well. He has shone everywhere he's been. On the Nordschleife, at Le Mans, everywhere he has been, he seems to shine, and he's looking relaxed, and it doesn't feel like a learning curve, to be quite honest. He certainly feels at home already in DTM, and this is his first race weekend. Very high hopes for Maurice Schuring in that lovely orange and black car, nicknamed Oranje.
I think I can translate that. I can work out what that might mean, even with my language skills. And of course, another very rapid Dutch driver for the Dutch fans to cheer this year is going to be Thierry Vermeulen, who looked very handy in that first free practice session. And again, is likely another potential race winner this year, given he got very, very close to being a race winner last year, albeit but some bad luck. So, yeah, I think Dutch fans will be out in force when we, in June, go to Zandvoort. But for now, you're on board with and looking at Timo Glock on his return to the DTM. So a couple of landmarks coming up this weekend, one of which will be a 50th race in the DTM, a 50th race start in the DTM for Mirko Bortolotti. By my calculations, on Sunday, it's going to be the 150th, yes, 150th start in the DTM for Timo Glock, former Formula One driver, of course, and long-term DTM racer. His best season was in 2020, the last season of the Class 1 era, and he was, of course, a BMW driver previously, and he finished 5th in the championship that year, but he has been a multiple race winner in the DTM, 5 wins, 15 podiums, and he'll bring some tremendous experience to the relatively young and inexperienced in terms of DTM team of Dürr Motorsport, with whom he's now racing in the McLaren. Right, Vermeulen is out there and trying to improve his lap times. Thomas Preining has gone back out as well, and he's second now, so it's Guan and Preining, the Porsche 1-2, like we had here a few weeks ago. And Lucas Auer in the pits is third.
At the moment, 22.7.
22.7, the fastest times, as Thierry Vermeulen has just been told by his race engineer. A 7.19 for Guan, a 7.81 for Preining, so 62 thousandths between them. Lucas Auer in the pits in third, only 88 thousandths of a second away from the fastest time in this session. Then a bit of a gap to Maurice Schuring, who is fourth. Porsche's first, second and fourth. It is run by Manthey EMA, the Maurice Schuring car. It's in a separate garage, and it's the Manthey Junior team officially. And then you've got Mirko Bortolotti in the pits, currently 5th quickest in the Lamborghini. Thierry Vermeulen has just shot up to 6th place, and he's just shot over the curbs as well here. He had a lively, let's say, a lively moment with René Rast here last year, didn't he? The two were best of friends after one of the races here, and Thierry got a fine for saying as much, but with body language, use of his fingers, or a finger in
He
particular.
just said he wanted to come first. I mean, I'm on his side on that one. I see that Marco Wittmann has had a track limits warning on turn 2, so that's our first one of this session. We were looking at a Thierry Vermeulen chicane. What chicane? Straight on, but the stewards are keeping an eye on that. We did have a track limits warning this morning for a driver. It was Max Powell at the time who clobbered one of the bollards there, but they do try to straight line that chicane. There's a good way of crash testing the suspension as well on these cars, but they build them strong, and the drivers certainly liking to use all of the curbs.
Yeah, Ferrari's looking pretty handy. We talked about the Lamborghinis and the Porsches looking good, but Ferraris have been thereabouts as well so far today. And Thierry Vermeulen, 5th quickest. He's done 2 good laps now, 123.221, half a second covering the top 5. We have had a Ferrari win here as well. In the GT3 era, we've only had 2 years racing at Oschersleben. There was a big gap between 2015 and 2023, where the DTM didn't come here. But Jack Aitken, one of the 4 different winners we've had from the last 4 races here, he's had a win. Luca Exler, as we've said, had a win here last year in the Lamborghini. Franck Pereira, 2 years ago, got Lamborghini's first ever win in the DTM. And Christian Engelhardt was a winner 2 years ago in a Porsche as well, Top Sport Porsche. So we've had 1 Ferrari win, 2 Lamborghini wins, 1 Porsche win, and 4 different drivers winning in the last 2 years here. And in terms of pole positions, Jack Aitken's had 1, Mirko Bortolotti's had 1, Franck Pereira's had 1, and Thomas Preining has had 1 as well. And Jack Aitken, who of course is a Ferrari driver, back for his 3rd season, the very popular British driver, ex-Formula 1 racer. Jack Aitken is the only person in the current field that's been on the podium here in the GT3 era more than once. He's had 2 podium finishes here.
I'm enjoying watching Fabio Scherer monstering the Mustang around the curves, picking up the dirt. Oh, he's just peeled off into the pit lane now. So good to have Mustang on the grid for the DTM. Great to have Fabio Scherer back as well. The growl of that car, I could just go and sit on the terraces and listen to that car going past all afternoon. It is music to the ears. They're still trying to get a hand on it, both Fabio Scherer and Arjun Maini. Team HRT switching from Mercedes to the Ford Mustang, and they acknowledge themselves they've got a bit of work to do just to get it dialed in, to learn the car, to learn especially how to get the tyres into the window, to get the heat into those tyres. So at the moment they are at the bottom of the timesheets, but we're expecting things from them as the season progresses. It looks mighty, it sounds majestic.
Had those great stats you just read out that were posted up on social media about who's had the most points in terms of the GT3 era, with Bortolotti and Kelvin van der Linde being up there. In terms of brands, in the 4 years that we've had so far of GT3 era DTM, it's 12 wins each for Audi, BMW and Mercedes, and 11 not far behind for Ferrari. So that's been mighty close in this era. The brand with the most pole positions in the last 4 years have been Audi with 17 in total, and the brand in the last 4 years with the most podium finishes in the championship have been been Mercedes with 48 podium finishes in this last 4 years. It's the 5th year now we're about to embark upon of GT3 cars running in the DTM. So a bit quieter on track. It was a frenetic start, people wanting to get out there early and some quick lap times being put in, but we've got 4 of the top 5 in the pits now, with actually Lucas Auer, I think, just going back out. Bendura's just gone back out as well. Timo Glock has popped his McLaren up to 8th place, which is pretty good. 1:23.471 seconds. It means that 8 tenths, just over 8 tenths, cover the top 10 cars now. Timo Glock showed that he's lost none of his verve and enthusiasm for racing. He's a hugely popular figure, isn't he? He's chucking it over the curbs through the chicane as well in that McLaren.
There's a lot of people that are going to be coming this weekend to cheer that man there in that car. Talking to Bendura earlier, and he said there's a lot of things they've discovered about the car over the last few months, adjustments they've been able to make, things that may be a bit out of kilter that they've been able to correct to find a bit of lap time. But the sweet spot, as we already said, is quite a narrow window, but when they find it, that car is mighty. And with Timo Glock at the wheel, is very excited to see where that's going to go from here. You mentioned the Audi earlier as well, and of course anybody who was expecting last year to be the final year that Audi was going to feature in the DTM, well, we stand and applaud Riccardo Fella and Land Motorsport, as Riccardo Fella drives the very same car that he won the GT Masters title with for Land, Monoplast by Land as it was then, along with co-pilot Christopher Mies. They won the GT Masters title back in 2021. The car's been in a museum, and they've dusted it off. The panels still exist. They're coated in a clear lacquer somewhere, the original panels that they won the title with. The car's been repaneled, upgraded to the latest Evo, re-stickered and out on track. It's a wonderful story, and wouldn't it be great to see Riccardo Fella get a podium or even a win, as we look at a replay of Timo Glock giving it a bit of drifting on the corner, just exploring the limits of adhesion in the McLaren.
Yeah, just finding the edge there, just dancing on the cliff top for a while, but he got it back all under control for Timo. For Timo Glock fans, the good news is this isn't going to be a one-off, because he said that his deal with Motorsport is for at least 2 years.
Right.
He's been busy pre-season testing at Portimao and Valencia over February and early March, so plenty of work being put in. The chief engineer at Motorsport is a guy called Richard Selwyn, who actually guided Timo Glock to his GP2 title all the way back in 2007. GP2, of course, was the forerunner to what is now the FIA Formula 2 Championship, which Timo won when he was on his way up to Formula 1. So those two reunited. I think he's been instrumental in, or one of the reasons that Timo has joined forces with the team as well. You've also got a guy called Peter Lengyel, who joined the team Dur Motorsport as data engineer at the start of this year, and he used to work with Timo Glock when he was in his RMG days at BMW in the DTM as well. So, you know, as Ben Dur was saying to us, lots of new faces and experienced faces coming in to help move that team up, as we look at the very experienced eyes of Riccardo Fella, that bearded figure this year, and great to see Riccardo back. He came very close to winning the championship 2 years ago in the DTM when he finished 3rd in the end, but he was great that year. We've had some sterling drives from him. I remember 2 years ago, the one from basically the back of the grid to get onto the podium at the Red Bull Ring was just a phenomenal drive, and he had that, remember that battle at the Lausitz Ring that year as well with Mirko Bortolotti, and literally there were 1 or 2 centimetres between the pair of them for about half of the race. Ricardo Fella was trying desperately to find a way through, couldn't quite do it. It was a great battle to watch, and fantastic to see him back with Land Motorsport. One of the points that was brought to my attention, or at least discussed over the break between the 2 sessions, Brian, was about pit stops, and we're going to have 3 mandatory pit stops during the course of a race weekend now, 1 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday, and of course in DTM it's in and out as quick as you can. But Land Motorsports are not used to such quick pit stops necessarily, are they, from their time in GT Masters, where there's a minimum time limit?
Yeah, absolutely. So performance pit stops, that's kind of new territory, isn't it? And I'm not aware of Land Motorsport having to do a performance pit stop in anything before, because of course you have that minimum pit stop time in a GT Masters race, so you kind of take your time, and you don't change the tyres anyway, because that's not permitted in GT Masters. So this is new territory. So I hope that the Land Motorsport crew have been down the gym for the last couple of weeks, putting in the hard work. There will be lots of rehearsals. You'll see it late into the night tonight. If you walk along the pit lane, they'll be out there rehearsing, because races are so often won or lost in the pits. It's not wild. It's not just about getting the wheels changed quickly, but you've got to keep it within the regulations as well. The wheels cannot be allowed to be unsupported by hands in the pits. It has to be very carefully done, very well rehearsed. So the teams they break out in a sweat when the cars come into the pits, because that's so often where we see races won or lost.
Yeah, well, if you lose 2 seconds in a pit stop, which is very easy to do, if you're 0.2 of a second a lap quicker than the driver you're trying to catch, that you lost the time to, it's going to take you 10 laps just to get back the time that you lost. And actually being 0.2 quicker than anybody in the DTM is quite hard. 0.2 normally covers about 6 cars. So it is massively important. And I'm really pleased that the pit stop championship is back in this year as well, which Manthey won just ahead of Winwood Racing last year, where the fastest 3 pit stops in each race score points, and it's something for the team to go for as well. And a reminder, really, Brian, that the teams, it's a team sport.
Yeah.
We talk about drivers a lot, but you know, there's a lot of people working behind the scenes in the garage before you even get here, stripping cars down to get them back on track when there's been damage, or just to check everything. Every single nut and bolt is working, all the data engineers, everybody that is behind the scenes just to get the transport of the cars here. And of course the pit stops, and it's a reminder that, you know, it is a team sport, this. The drivers cannot do it without that support and expertise behind them.
The drivers are often described as the nut that holds on the wheel, but it's, as you say, a massive team that support them and get them there. And without that, none of these cars would be out on track, and none of these drivers would be out on track. And as I risk of repeating myself from earlier, the team are crucial in pit stops, in everything else, to the race wins. And we see races won or lost in the pits, but also in the preparation. And you talk about ride heights of 1 millimetre, 2 millimetres, changing the entire handling of a car. You realise that the setup, the preparation is critical. These aren't just thrown together by a bunch of grease monkeys in a garage somewhere. This is precision engineering with these cars.
Yeah, absolutely. Fastest 2 pit stops we saw last year were both at Hockenheim, actually. Sheldon van der Linde with Schubert Motorsport and Maro Engel with Team Winwood. Sub-6 second pit stops. Insane. 5.9 seconds for the pair of them. It was a sight to behold when they come in. It really is, because they have to be quick, they have to be absolutely precise. But in a way, they can't rush it either, which is strange when you've got 6 seconds or less for the perfect pit stop. To say they're not rushing, but it's all absolutely rehearsed and in control. It's really impressive to watch, as is this man, Max Powell. Fantastic to see him back for his second season. Powell Motorsport, one of their more local tracks, this, for the team, and 4th quickest at the moment, and he's on another good lap here. Absolute best in the first sector, personal best in the second sector. Can he get into the top 3? He can. Can he ever? He's gone quickest, 1:22.546.
And that's without even doing a personal best or best of all in sector 3. We were talking yesterday about dark horses this year, and there are a couple of drivers already that you're saying they've kind of stepped up a gear over the winter. I kind of feel like with Ian Chen-Nguyen, season, and with Max Powell as well, you can just see when a car and a driver is looking more dialed in, looking more confident and more just all together. Max Powell is certainly one of those. He's always improving year on year. Of course, we remember 2 years ago he had that guest appearance at the Nürburgring and won on his debut weekend. That made everybody sit up and take notice. Last year was very much a voyage of discovery, I think, for Powell Motorsport and for Max Powell, just doing a full season. But this year, I'm looking at him earlier this morning and looking at him here, just looking confident, looking dialed in. Another one in the dark horse category, I'd say. Yeah,
and, you know, there were some highs last year. He got pole position at Zandvoort. He got a best of 6 at the Red Bull Ring. He got 3 top 10 finishes as well. So, you know, there were some good points there as well for Max Powell, the driver that is quickest in this second free practice session by the best part of 0.2 of a second. He's done a 1:22.546. Anjan Guan earlier in the Porsche did a 1:22.719. His teammate Thomas Preining was only a fraction slower, 62 thousandths of a second slower to be absolutely precise, with the 1:22.781. Lucas Auer in the pits now 4th. Tom Callender 5th place. Not bad for a 17-year-old. And Ben Green, also in his debut weekend in the DTM in the Ferrari, has just gone 6th.
Yeah, the rookies are not really looking like rookies at the moment, are they? And yeah, Tom Callender, the youngest driver ever to compete in the DTM, a driver who's still studying at school as well, so combining schoolwork and driving in the DTM. So P5 in FP2 with less than 10 minutes to go. That's pretty impressive. We've got the top 12 cars covered by less than a second. The 2 Mustangs looking to just be struggling a bit at the moment. Arjamaini is some 8.1 seconds back from the fastest time, so I'm wondering if there's some issues there. They're still getting to grips with that car, and Fabio Scherer just above him, about 3.9 seconds off the pace. So a bit of work to be done with the Mustangs, and what we're expecting though, and they will be pleased to get Oschersleben behind them. They say of all the tracks in the calendar, it's the one that does not favour their car.
There is Tom Callender. There's Lucas Auer as a teammate, and Mercedes-backed driver Tom Callender won the championship with this team, with Team Landgraf in GT Masters last year with Elias Zeppelin. 5 wins, 4 other podiums, youngest ever GT Masters champion now, as Brian said, the youngest ever driver to compete in the DTM. Just to put it into context, 2022, 3 years ago, he was racing in the German karting championships, finishing as runner-up in that. Former ADAC Kart Masters champion as well as Maro Engel now, a driver that was 3rd in the championship, of course, last year. Went right down to the wire for Maro in the 2024 season. His best so far in DTM. He got 1 win last year, and he was a regular visitor to the podium. And Maro Engel is quickest now in the Mercedes with a 1:22.475 after picking up yet another GT World Cup victory at Macau in November, a circuit where he's got an absolutely legendary record. And here, Brian, is another rapid Mercedes. 2 rapid through that corner. Jules Gounon, who's trying to get back into the top 3, which is where he was earlier on in the session. At the moment, he's in 9th place. It was a personal best first sector, but he would have lost a little bit of time there.
I feel like the yellow Mamba livery kind of suits the Jules Gounon image, really. The kind of the deadly snake ready to bite. Venomous,
yeah.
Yes. I mean, Jules Gounon, who is the nicest guy you could meet, but on the racetrack, you don't want to mess with him. And I said it in FP1, I say it again, very excited about the prospect of him doing a full season in DTM. One of the current greats, as we look at dust rising up in the air in the distance. One of the current greats in GT racing, and he certainly belongs in the DTM, in my humble opinion. He's proving that on his debut weekend, on his first full season, currently in P7, just half a second off Maro Engel's fastest time, but very excited to see him getting down and dirty with it. And just because it's his debut season doesn't mean he's not a championship contender, so you discount Jules Gounon at your peril.
Yeah, he's won every endurance race you can think of, really, hasn't he? Spa 24 hours, Bathurst 12 hours, he's won 3 times. As you said, a GT Masters champion, Spa 24-hour race, won. He's pretty good in karts as well. World karting champion, French karting champion. He's from France, but Andorran now. He's dual nationality. Lives in Andorra, so an Andorran on the grid. As you say, a really nice guy. Huge amounts of experience. It feels like he's been around forever, but he's only 30 years old. You know, Jules Gounon. He's packed a lot in, hasn't he, to his racing career so far. And yeah, it'll be one to watch. Mauro Engel, though, last time around went even quicker than he'd gone before. So 2 really quick laps from Mauro. 1:22.321 for his new livery and his new race number, of course, this year. Number 24 he now is, which, memory serves, was in his first season Thomas Preining's number when he was with Timo Bernhard's team. And he was the number 130 last year because it was 130 years of Mercedes involvement in motorsport. Big anniversary year for Mercedes, and Mauro very nearly was able to take the DTM Championship title. They're on board with Arjun Maini now, who is trying to tame a wild horse in the Ford Mustang.
I'm just loving the noise on board. I mean, I say it sounds like a NASCAR. I mean, it is a NASCAR, really, isn't it? But the roar on board is phenomenal, and he was propping up the bottom of the timing sheets, but he's not anymore. He's up to 19th. He's 1.8 off the time set by Mauro Engel, so he's found a little bit of pace, still plenty more to come. But I was just loving not just the sights, but the sounds of that onboard shot. Amazing.
Yeah, 5.4 litre V8 engine, heaven. 550 brake horsepower. You lucky boy, Arjun Maini, getting to drive this. Look at the concentration on him. Arjun, 7th in the championship last year. Had a great season. It's brilliant to see him back, but a new challenge for him and for the team at HRT, Hubert Haupt's team, with whom Arjun's been for a few years now in the DTM. They've built a really strong working relationship together. Uli Fritz, of course, he's hugely experienced previously with HWT and DTM, is running the team now, and he's a really switched on guy as well. So if anybody can get a new car performing well in the DTM, it is that team. And the car, which in its current guise made its GT racing debut only last year, got some experience with it. They've been building it up over testing, and Arjun is trying to wrestle it around. Meanwhile, Jules Gounon, we've talked him up to 3rd quickest in the Mercedes, 1:22.584. And look who's in the top 10 again, Ben Durr in the McLaren, car number 25, 8th quickest, going well. His best time of 1:22.9, just over 0.6 of a second between the top 9 cars in this session. As Arjun Maini pushes on, Marco Wittmann tries to do the same in the BMW, but he's back in 22nd at the moment, and René Rast is back in 24th place. And something we talked about in the first free practice session was the fact that the ride heights, particularly at the rear of the car, has been raised on the BMWs just before this event started by balance performance engineers, or the people that engineer the balance performance at SRO. So 1.5 millimeters higher off the ground is the front axle, 7.5 millimeters higher off the ground is the rear axle. Doesn't sound like a lot, but it makes a massive difference to the handling and the aero performance of the car when it's higher up off the ground. And they are perhaps going to struggle with that a bit, although they've been given a bit more power than they had previously here last year. But that car's also got an Evo update kit on it for 2025. So lots of unknowns, really, for Schubert, who won the Teams Championship last year, but really struggled all season long to get the tyres switched on and to get any kind of good qualifying. There was one highlight at Hockenheim where Rennie got a 3rd in qualifying, but other than that, he was only in the top 10 4 times all season in qualifying. Right, you're right on board then with another great sounding car. This Gilles Magnus has got the number 7 Come To You Racing Aston Martin. He too is throwing it around, flinging it around. Plenty of GT experience and some World Touring car experience for Gilles Magnus as well. But very much you'd expect this to be a learning year for the team and for the drivers, wouldn't you, in DTM?
Yes, this is all very new to them, with experience more on the endurance front, but very, very welcome additions, and great to have Aston Martin back on the grid. First time on the grid in the GT3 era. Of course, we saw them briefly at the end of the Class 1 era as well. The BMWs have responded, having been propping up the bottom of the timing. So it's Marco Wittmann jumping up to 12th with a 1:23.12, and René Rast to 17th. So they've responded a little bit from that, but as the local race, the home race for Schubert Motorsport, they will be looking for more. Meanwhile, Jordan Pepper, purple in Sector 1, not so in Sector 2, but Pepper jumping up now to second at 122.438, so just a little over a tenth slower than Maro Engel. Still the benchmark time, only a minute and 10 seconds remaining of this free practice session.
So we're in our comfort zone now, aren't we, Brian? Talking about a very quick South African in the DTM.
Yes.
It's been Sheldon and Kelvin van der Linde for the last few years. It is Jordan Pepper now, or Jürgen Pfeffer, as he's known in Germany, because he like the van der Lindes, moved over here. I think it was back in 2013. He actually used to flat share with them. They're great friends, but moved his career over here, and like Kelvin, started racing on the support series to the DTM back in the day in the Sirocco R Cup, in which he was a champion. He's since raced at the Nürburgring 24 hours. He's raced in the States, in sports car racing, GT racing, all the way over Europe. It's always been his dream to come and race here, and he's been really rapid so far at Oschersleben. If he can do it, what he does at Oschersleben at all the tracks this year, not just a contender for a race winner, maybe for the championship title, Jordan Pepper. Don't rule him out. He could be a real dark horse, because the team seem to have stepped it up as well. And his race engineer this year is David Grabengieser, who has moved from SSR Performance, who have dropped out of the championship. But of course, SSR Performance took Mirko Bortolotti to the championship title last year, and he was Mirko Bortolotti's race engineer, and he's now with Jordan Pepper as the flag comes out on the 45-minute session, which is absolutely flown by this afternoon. Feels like it's been on for about 15-20 minutes. It's been a busy old session. I thought it might be, because I think they all wanted to get out there, Brian, and sample this warmer track temperature, because this is more like the weather we can expect tomorrow, isn't it?
Well, unlike FP1 this morning, which felt like it lasted about 3 days, this is certainly flown past, and lots of data as Luca Engstler still pushing. So the drivers that are still on a lap at the moment, that will still count. And so Luca Engstler still wants to record a lap here. He's in 11th just coming into this. He's going to cross the line now. Has he backed out of it? No, he's still going for it, isn't he? So he's gone up a position to a 10th place. So lots of pace in the Lamborghini.
Yeah, absolutely. Really promising weekend this could be for both drivers, who, again, just to reiterate, both went quick here at the start of the month in the official test day here at Oschersleben. They were 3rd and 4th quickest, respectively, in the TGI team. Lamborghini by GRT, Grasser Racing Team. So, Maro Engel, top of the times at the end of that session by just over a 10th. Just a little reminder to everybody, I'm here, I'm a championship contender. I gave it my best and was close last year, and there's no reason why Maro is not going to be fighting for the title again this year either. So Maro Engel fastest, the Mercedes ahead of the Lamborghinis, which dominated earlier in the session, but Jordan Pepper ends up second, Max Powell in 3rd, another Mercedes Jules Gounon up there as well. And still thereabouts, but not quite dominating like they were earlier on, the Porsches, Gouin and Preining 6th and 7th respectively. A couple of Ferraris up there as well. Ben Green, haven't seen that much of him on track, but when he's been going round, he's been circulating very quickly, and 6th quickest for Ben. Impressive. And Jack Aitken had a fairly late improvement. In fact, his last lap was his quickest lap, Jack Aitken, so he suddenly popped up to 8th place in that session. Lucas Aron Bender also in the top 10. So that's the second free practice session complete. For free practice, you get 2 sets of used tyres and a set of new slick tyres. You get an extra set as well for this first event of the season, but from tomorrow onwards, you're going to see more rapid times, because you'll get 4 sets of slicks to run over Saturday and Sunday, brand new ones as well. Maro Engel then in the Team Winward Mercedes, a 122.321 by just over a 10th quicker than Jordan Pepper. Max Powell, impressive in 3rd. Jules Gounon, impressive, but unexpectedly so. He's always impressive in 4th place. Anjan Gouin caps a good day in 5th. Ben Green also impressing in 6th. Thomas Preining, Jack Aitken, Lucas Auer and Ben Durr, who's had a good day today, rounding out the top 10. More brands in the DTN, different brands than we've had since 1987, and lots of them represented up there in that top 10. Luca Engstler pushing hard at the end when wound up 11th. He was 10th, and Jack Aitken went a bit quicker than him right at the end. Tom Callender, good stuff from the 17-year-old in 12th. Marco Wittmann, 13th. Thierry Vermeulen and Arjun Maini in the top 15 ahead of Maurice Schuring. Nicky Thiem, René Rast, Ricardo Feller, and back in 20th, Mirko Bortolotti. He didn't do that much running, and don't worry, I'm pretty sure he'll be quick if you're a Mirko Bortolotti fan when it matters tomorrow in qualifying. So for qualifying tomorrow, same format for qualifying as we've had for the last few years. 20-minute session sets the grid for race 1. We'll have the same on Sunday for race 2, and 9:20 in the morning is the start time for qualifying 1. It will be really important session as well, because it's not the easiest circuit to overtake on Oschersleben. You see super slow-mos are the top 3. 2 of them are Lamborghinis. You've seen the blue machine of Max Powell. You've seen now the gold and black machine of Jordan Pepper. But it was a Mercedes that rounded out the day with the quickest time. Maro Engel in the Mercedes AMG GT3. Team Winward, who right up there in their pit stop challenge last year as well. We've got a quick car, we've got a quick pit crew, we've got a quick driver. Maro Engel puts his mark in the dust, ready to go for the championship this year. So that is free practice 2 complete. Friday done and dusted. Hope you've enjoyed our coverage. Follow us on DTM.com. We'll see you tomorrow.